Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC, Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, coming to you live from Orlando, Florida. And joining me this week is the man who loved the kids, KC Onyebuchi.
I just realized why we threw that in there, and I despise you.
And the Star Wars connoisseur and the man we are thankful for being off camera this week, John Keys.
You know what? I'm not even going to be mad at you for that because being sick sucks. And if my voice goes out on me or if I get all high-pitchy, I do apologize to everybody out there. But, you know, I've been fighting the strep, so I'm not at my 100% best. But I will do my best this week.
No, that was just a veiled calling you ugly statement.
Yeah, you know, and I'm not the prettiest dude. Let's put it out there. You know, my girlfriend barely, you know, tolerates me. The kids laugh at me when I'm eating cereal and stuff. You know, that's what it is.
All right. Hey, the UFC rolled into London for UFC Fight Night Masvidal versus Till, but the fans were barely breathing in the O2 arena as they gasped at the shocking outcome of the main event. British striking was put to the test this week, but American emerged as the king of the UK. So let's get into the official decision and look at the events in the ring so we can talk about what happened outside of the ring. This is the official decision.
Official decision.
This is the official decision. This is where we look at the fights that happened on Saturday night. But before we do that, guys, I'm surprised that y'all didn't stop me and just be like, Ryan, how come you're not even speaking proper English? Like, it's... how many words did I mispronounce in that intro?
A bunch, but I think I just wanted to roll with it.
I know you made it sound so good. I was like, hey, if he's feeling it, he's feeling it, man. I'm like, let him go.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So I was like, I'm going to
the driver's seat recently. I realized how hard that is. So I was just like, I refuse to criticize.
Yeah. An American emerged as the king of the UK. There we go. I can't let it not be said properly. So there you go. So there were 4 fights that we're going to talk about on the card. Nathaniel Wood defeated Jose Quinones. Last week I said Quinones, and no one corrected me on that either. So Jose Quinones. Nathaniel Wood won by submission in round 2. Dominic Reyes robbed Volkan Ozdemir via split decision. I can't be too mad at it, because it was a split decision. And I always say, if it's a split decision for a close fight, that means that one round could have gone either way.
Never leave it in the hands of the judge. That's all I got to say about that.
That's the rule. Leon Edwards defeated Gunny Nelson via split decision. That knockdown must have been really, really, really important.
Called it.
Wow.
The Nostradamus of the MMA world has yet again struck.
Yeah,
really.
and it's true. I mean, we both had Leon Edwards in that fight. It was a closer fight than I thought it was going to be, though. I thought Leon Edwards was gonna be in control really the whole time, but Gunnar was game. So
yep.
It was a close fight, split decision. I'll take it. And in the main event, Jorge Masvidal defeated Darren Till via knockout in round 2. You know, there's a lot of hype around Darren Till. Like, everyone thought that Darren Till was going to be the next great challenger for the title. They gave him a fight because a championship fight versus then champion Tyron Woodley, but Darren Till got finished in the first round. Man, and this was supposed to be his return, and Jorge Masvidal put him out with just this brutal knockout.
Yeah, that was lovely. That's the way you derail a hype train.
Man, I don't know which hit did it. It was the hit that when he went down or when he bounced his head. And I mean, he bounced it like they were about to dunk it. Okay, dunk his head into a goal, man. I was like, oh my God. And he was just done. I mean, he is going to be the next generation. He's going to be a champion. I don't think he's going to be a champion at welterweight, though. I think he needs to go to middleweight to be effective. In my opinion,
you think the weight was really what was wrong?
Yeah, I was asking the same thing.
Well,
for Masvidal.
Okay, so okay, well, if you really want to know what the problem was, there's that there was an underestimation of Jorge Masvidal. Okay, just because he's Kimbo Slice's protege. Okay, the true legacy of Kimbo Slice, right there in Game Bread. All right, people tend to underestimate this guy. This dude he went in there on a mission, and he was going to tell people, I am here, I'm coming for a belt, and I'm going to leave with a belt before the end of the year. And yeah, we'll talk more about that later.
What I loved about it was Masvidal's game plan for Till was masterfully played out. Keeping Till constantly having to worry about the orbital kick, moving between southpaw and orthodox effortlessly, while throwing 3 punches for every 1 punch that Till threw. It was going to be a lot of work for Till to be able to hang on. If that fight had continued on, Masvidal was absolutely outstriking Till, and it had really figured out his timing. So it was just a matter of time before that happened.
Yeah, I like your assessment there. You know, the big thing for me is that Darren Till, I don't know where he goes from here, because Jorge Masvidal, he needed to win that fight to stay on track. I think his next fight has to be against Leon Edwards, and Leon Edwards is the one that's been chasing Darren Till this whole time, because Leon and Darren are both from Liverpool. They've basically come from the same, neighborhood. But Darren Till got on the hype train express and shot all the way up to the top of the welterweight division, got a title shot because, of course, Colby Covington was chicken.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. He had a nasal surgery and he couldn't fight. And Leon Edwards has had to work his way up the ladder, a la Kamaru Usman style. So Leon Edwards, I think this is the best opportunity he has to finally get a shot at Darren Till. And I think if he gets that fight and he wins that fight, then Darren Till may be seeking life elsewhere, not in the welterweight division, but in the UFC.
I think at this point, they're going to go back to the drawing board with Darren Till. He can't take much more hits at that, much more knockouts like he has so far. I mean, he is coming off a second, even more brutal knockout than he had in the previous fight. And when I saw it, I was like, dude, that's not good. And while he's young, he may need to go up a weight division just to keep himself, in a safe level. Otherwise, he suffer a couple more knockouts like that, and he might not even have to worry about seeking life elsewhere because he's not going to have a career.
It's tough for him to move up just on the fact that if you look at the size difference between Masvidal and Till was a whole man size bigger than Masvidal. They don't look like they belong in the same weight class. And theoretically, if Till had been able to use his size and reach advantage better, then he should be absolutely cleaning out the division.
But you're looking at look at that division, though. I mean, he's, I think is that what he's been using all his time, is his size and his his size to impose his will upon the division. Yes. But the division is is chock full of killers. Okay, let's put it out there. That division is not a division where you're a one trick pony, Ben
right.
Askren. But and you need to be dynamic, and I don't think Darren Till can last in that division with his current skill set. He can go to another weight division and probably be okay. Here in the welterweight, no, I think he needs to go.
Well, see, that's the thing, and I think this is what you're kind of say, KC, is that if he's struggling at welterweight, moving up to middleweight, you think he's going to do better against a Yoel Romero? You're going to put him in there against Luke Rockhold or Kelvin Gastelum, or I don't think it gets any better if you go up the weight class. It's like if you can't hang it at welterweight, going up to middleweight or light heavyweight, which is probably where his body is actually built for, it just gets worse and worse for Darren Till.
So are you calling him a average fighter at other weight divisions?
But that is the big argument, right? Is that if the use of cutting weight, use of cutting weight is a strategic advantage that allows bigger fighters to fight at the smaller weight classes. And these fighters would be otherwise average fighters at higher weight classes because they can't impose their will being a fighter that's 20, 30 pounds heavier. I mean, at the end of the day, Darren Till's a great fighter. I don't want to take anything away from him from that perspective. I'm just looking at the fact that if you look at him getting beaten by Tyron Woodley and knocked out in the first round, getting knocked out, he was out on the way down when he got knocked out by Jorge Masvidal. He was already out. It was a timber, and there's not a lot of places you can go after this. He looked impressive coming into the UFC in the first couple of fights that he had, but now it's one of those things where if he doesn't get this fixed, if he doesn't start winning again, there's really no place to go because he's not going to be able to challenge for a top 5 spot. He's not going to be able to go and move up a weight class. And I seriously don't think that he could make 155, even though Anthony Johnson proved that it was possible. Well, he made 170, but Anthony Johnson, a heavyweight, made 170. So a light heavyweight should be able to make 155. All right, let's go on because we're not finished with this story. We are finished with this card. So let's close the book on this one. Let's put it back on the shelf because this card is history. But let's talk about this fight a little more in Finding the Angles. Finding the Angles. Finding the Angles. This is where we look at the fights and things that are making headlines in the wake of UFC from London. There's a lot of things that people are talking about, but the number one thing people are talking about this week is Jorge Masvidal versus Leon Edwards backstage. Both of these fighters coming off of great wins at UFC in London on Saturday night. They see each other backstage, a little jawing takes place, and next thing you know, people are throwing punches, people are getting cut up. It's pandemonium.
It was so good, man. Okay. It was beautiful how it played out because there's a backstory behind that where Jorge's sitting there, he's talking, he's being cool about things, and then Leon comes up and saying, maybe I'll see you, maybe I'll see you in July, maybe I won't see you, maybe I won't even fight you because you're expletive, and that's when Masvidal's like, oh, hey, wait a minute, man, you're going to talk all that. Why don't you come on over here and say it to my face? And, he walked over there, and it was split second, but you see Leon throw his hands up. And like Masvidal has explained, where I come from, when you throw your hands up, you catching it. And he gave him a 3-piece and a soda and then glide out.
All right,
that's the quote of the year.
KC. Do you want to tell us what a 3-piece and a soda is?
I believe that's the Popeyes special, right?
Yeah, that is $5.99, people. $5.99. Okay, no, it's $4.99. My bad. $5 will get you that, and you won't lay on the ground. Okay,
you won't end up with a cut up face.
Yes, and you know what the crazy part is about this whole story is that his team tried to sit there and try and call him a chump and say that was assault and everything like that when Leon was the one that was talking all the smack.
Right.
So
but we've already decided that talking smack doesn't necessarily lead to a fight, right, Ryan?
It doesn't, and it would not have. That what happened was Jorge Masvidal was doing an interview backstage when Leon Edwards walked out and started talking smack. Jorge Masvidal said, and I quote, that he walked over there saying, say that to my face. His hands were behind his back to show that he was not intending on getting into a fight.
That's true.
False, but come on.
No,
he did walk
that's
over
what
there.
he said.
He
but that
walked
doesn't
over
make it
there.
true.
His hands were behind his back, and you can see it in the video. His hands were behind his back, and
he didn't have intent to fight. Come on.
Well, for legal reasons, it shows what he did. Okay, for legal reasons,
there is
the narrative
video
is
evidence.
matched.
The video evidence shows that Jorge Masvidal walked over there and had his hands behind his back, which he says, and this is where he comes from, and where he comes from, that was the sign that I'm not trying to fight you, but I am coming over there to check you for what you're saying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So at the point when Leon Edwards made an aggressive move towards him with his hands up, as John has said, that is when Jorge Masvidal gave him a 3-piece and a soda. 3-piece and a soda, of course, the 3-piece refers to a 3-punch combo. Typically, it's the jab, cross, hook. The soda, that's, just a little bit of sweetness on the side.
And it will, and hats off to Jorge. He did slide right out of it. Okay, he boom, 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 and was out. I was like, wow, that was some fast.
Yeah, but he didn't really connect anything.
He did.
Vicious.
He
connected enough to cut his face.
He cut Leon Edwards.
Yeah.
Leon
and then his corner screaming, "Oh, you little expletive, for being a douche." And they're talking smack. But I'm sorry, if you talk it, you best back it up. I'm sorry,
but that's the problem, though. It's on one hand, like we're almost like proud of Masvidal for going over there and holding his own and being ready to fight. But the reality is, if Masvidal had just stayed in his interview, just focused on what he should have been focused on, we don't have this situation. Is Leon wrong? Yeah, he talked smack, but according to Ryan, that's part of the gamemanship.
It is part of the gamemanship.
Yeah,
it is.
So both fighters should do a better job. Like your job is to fight in the octagon, not in the street.
Sure.
Okay, so let's under normal circumstances in a benevolent world where orange vanilla and orange vanilla Coke Zero will not kill you because it tastes so good. Okay, that is correct. That is correct. You are absolutely right.
I have no idea what this analogy is.
But
I was gonna roll with it. I was like, I don't know, fam. Maybe there's a news story I missed.
You have my attention though. Like, okay, let's hear how you're gonna pull this together.
Orange vanilla Coke tastes delicious. All right, but you can still clean your toilet with it. It'll kill you. Anyway, with that said, we are in the era.
I can't let this pass.
What? Orange vanilla Coke does taste delicious, dude.
It tastes delicious, but it's an acid. Any acid will clean your toilet. Lemon juice will clean your toilet. It's all acids. Wine is an acid.
One can of Coke will clean your toilet.
Any acid will clean your toilet. You can clean your toilet with wine. It's an acid.
How much wine do you use? We'll talk about this after the show. Let me get back to my point.
I can't let this go because it's like I hear so many people because they watch one video of someone cleaning a toilet with Coke and they're like, "Oh, Coke is terrible." And it's like, no, it's an acid. That's why so many cleaners have things like lemon and orange in there because those are all acids that clean.
But how much of a lemon will it take to clean your toilet? How much of an orange will it take to clean your toilet?
If you had the same amount of lemon juice or orange juice or wine as they use in a Coke, so 12 ounces of lemon, I'm pretty sure I can clean a toilet with it. All right,
and
we digress.
People, we have got that. We have got. That's what I wanted him to say. People, we need to put this to the test, but that's another episode. Okay,
I want you to video this and put it on Instagram so that you have two things on Instagram.
I have plenty of things.
Pinterest, but all right.
All right. Enough of your venom over there, sir. What I'm trying to say is that the way that the UFC is currently running right now, that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. In other words, the more controversy you create, the more spotlight is shown on you. So, yeah, what better controversy than to have a backstage fight? Okay, that was it. Was it real? It could have been real. Okay, the emotions was definitely there. All right, but I guarantee we're gonna see that fight, that Jorge Masvidal Leon Edwards fight. I will predict by International Fight Week we will see that fight.
International Fight Week is the first week in July, so we have you on record as making that prediction.
Yes, and trust me, this has just began. All right, you will see. It will be constant. Okay, that whole Ben Askren showing up in London, that got thrown to the wayside and into the trash can compared to this right now.
Yeah, well, that is true. And Casey, I'll let you have the last word on this. Ben Askren was looking to fight the winner of Darren Till versus Jorge Masvidal. Do you think that Jorge Masvidal is going to fight Ben Askren, or do you think he's going to go after Leon Edwards because of this beef?
I don't know that either one of those fights really makes sense for Masvidal. I think he's really earned a title shot, so I wouldn't take either one of those fights.
All right. That's good. We're talking about people giving out 3 pieces and a soda. Well, on Saturday night in Dallas, Texas, Errol Spence Jr. handed out 115 3 pieces and a soda to Mikey Garcia. He dominated him to retain his IBF welterweight championship. Errol Spence Jr. landed 345 strikes to Garcia's 75. This was one of the most one-sided 12-round fights I've seen in recent history. This was just a clinic. I don't even know why. Like, you start asking, like, how did this guy get to be a title contender?
Because he got into the ring and he realized who he was dealing with. Okay, that's what happened. Once again, another classic example of somebody being broken in the ring. When they got in the ring, listen to their hype guys, and then when they're in that square circle, and then they take that first couple of punches, they're like, oh, wait a minute, this guy really does hit like this. Oh my God, I'm in trouble. And slowly but surely, he gets broken.
Yeah, this is one of those things, and Casey, I think it was you that was talking about it last week, is you go from I'm going to win this fight to I just want to make it to the last round.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of what it was. I mean, Errol Spence threw over 1,000 punches, landing 345. When they talked about power punches, he was like 50%. And it's like, this was just like, dude, why are you here? Like, someone should have thrown in the towel. Like, listen, we don't want to see any more of this. But
it doesn't happen nearly enough where your corner's just like, look, we're going to be honest with you. Our game plan's not going to work with this dude. You're done.
There's not. You're saying there's not enough throwing in the towel.
Yeah, I think that should happen more often because we get stuck with boring fights where the guy clearly has no shot at winning unless his opponent throws out his shoulder from hitting him too much.
So that turns into a pride issue then for the fighter. Okay, that's the problem there. That's a fighter's pride that you're throwing. I give up. Okay, I don't think any fighter wants to say that. Okay, no matter how dominated he's getting. And don't get me wrong, I'm all about protecting the fighter, but at the same time, you gotta let that fighter fight. It's up to the ref to call it quits, not the fighter nor his corner. Okay, the ref's job is to do that.
Yeah, well, the only thing I was going to say was, KC, they threw the towel in for you for your first fight, and you were pissed.
So that's how you play me?
No, I'm
he's
just saying.
doing both of us like this tonight.
No, I'm just saying you were upset. We talked about this on the show that you were like, they should not have thrown the towel in for me. I was tired, but I wasn't taking any damage. I could have worked my way out of this.
That's the difference between that fight that I had and these pro guys is they've worked with them. That was my first time with the corner, so They have no idea what my stamina was like and how I was able to still slip even though like my hands aren't up. Like I can still slip without my hands up, and I was taking no damage. Whereas most of the fights we see, it's just the fighter's getting absolutely pummeled. His people have known him. It's not like they're expecting some miracle to happen. And I think that's where there's a difference in just being realistic versus prideful.
Yeah, and let me be clear. I wasn't trying to like call you out or anything. I was just I know that this was one of those topics that we talked about on the show.
Yeah, I think I was more mad in that situation that my corner didn't know me well enough to make that decision for me.
Well, I wouldn't have thrown the towel in. I did not. I was not holding the towel at the time. So, just
especially because I think in the fight where they threw the towel in for me, we're talking seconds before the bell rings. Like, bro, you don't think I can hang in another 15 seconds with this dude who I dominated for most of the round? Come on.
Most of the first round. Most of the first rounds.
Shut up.
Just trying to look for accuracy.
The listeners didn't need to know all that.
Hey, let's go on to this one. I added this one while y'all were talking about the about Jorge Masvidal, but you sent this to me on Twitter, and John, if you need to click it to see it, I think it's relevant. Aljamain Sterling, the Funk Master, posted to Twitter a post that said reconstructing knees one fight at a time, and it shows him in a fight where he is getting kicked.
Yeah.
And it's more of a stomp on his lead leg, which is basically hyperextending his lead leg in the middle of the fight. It's a legal kick, but it is one that could have devastating impacts on a fighter in the midst of a fight. And I think he brings up a relevant question, and there was discussion on the internet about this, is should one of those knee joint type strikes, which John Jones throws a lot, should that be legal? Because if it could seriously injure a fighter in the middle of a fight and really turn the tide, or is it it's a valid kick? It should be used.
Ooh, there are a few strikes that are banned in MMA. The 12-6,
12-6
strikes to the back of it. Yeah, 12-6 elbow. Excuse me. That really, from what I've heard, I've never been hit by 12-6. That are not as strong as, let's say, a forearm or elbow. Elbow to the side of your head. A kick like this, and I've seen John Jones use it more than anybody else. I think he was the one that actually, I won't say he wasn't the originator, but he was definitely an innovator of it. Okay, he brought it to the forefront, and it's not a pretty kick. It looks dangerous. It looks like you can end the fight if kicked properly, just like what I'm seeing right here. Should it be banned? Yes, because I would say yes, because that's a bad angle. Okay, that I'm looking at here, and it's just like, but I don't know. I say yes on the short answer. Yes.
Okay, KC, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's I'm split on it because of the arguments I've seen from the fighters, which to me matters a lot more than an armchair quarterback like myself, is that the picture shown that I'm sure we'll have on the website and on Instagram and Twitter, in that particular picture, it's actually easier to defend if the fighter wasn't like in that angle. It was just the fighter is at an unorthodox angle when he's getting this orbital kick. So, of course, the knee's going to hyperextend versus if he had squared up more with his opponent when that kick came in, it would have just pushed his leg backward, and you can defend that a little bit better. It's not easy to defend that kick, but it is possible to defend that kick. So there's that. And then if you look at some of the other strikes that are legal that are as damaging, it's hard to say that, this is more dangerous, so you can't do it. But then the point that I found to be most cogent is the notion that it should be illegal because it's the difference between injury and hurt. When that orbital kick lands, you get injured versus any other kick where you get hurt and you can recover. Like, this is a knee surgery kind of kick, and that doesn't seem sportsmanlike to me.
That's very interesting. I wanted to make a couple of comments just about the discussion around the 12-6 elbows. So for those of you who are out there listening to the show and you're not familiar with that term, the 12-6 elbow is, if you think about a clock, you're bringing your elbow up at the 12 o'clock and then bringing it down on your opponent at the 6 o'clock. And the whole reason why this strike is is illegal and not used is not because it is damaging. It is not because it is injurious, where it could injure your opponent. It is because in the early days of the UFC, legislators who were looking to sanction UFC fights or not saw a martial artist breaking bricks on television with his elbow, and he was bringing it from 12 to 6 to break the bricks. And it was such a violent image that they would not sanction mixed martial arts fights unless that particular strike was considered illegal. So if you talk to fighters, they'll tell you that the 12 to 6 elbow isn't any more damaging than some of the elbows that are thrown during a ground and pound type of fight. It really isn't. But because of the image of a man breaking bricks with that strike, that was the only way they could get fights sanctioned within those early days of the sport. So that's why that particular strike is considered illegal. I think it's very different than the orbital kick that, which I didn't know that that's what it was called. Because when I think orbital, I think of the eye. But that orbital kick, if you look at it, and all you got to do is search Aljamain, which is Aljamain, Sterling, reconstructing knees one fight at a time. We'll try to put it on the page so you don't have to do that. But it is a pretty brutal image, and we need to we could consider whether or not we should stop doing that. Let's go on. Tony Ferguson wife files for a restraining order. Now, you guys know that my number 2 favorite fighter in all of mixed martial arts is Tony Ferguson.
Cheick Kongo.
You were
I thought that was his
off.
number 1. I thought that was his number 1.
No, my number 1 is Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. But you guys know that I'm a big Tony Ferguson fan. I've talked about El Kukui a lot of times. Yes. One of the reasons why I like Tony Ferguson is because he is unorthodox, because he is unpredictable, because he takes unbelievable amounts of damage and finds a way to focus through it and still end up winning. But the dark side of that is the fact that part of his unorthodox behavior, part of his unpredictable persona is the fact that it appears as though he is a very sick individual. That he may be suffering from some type of, psychotic episode that needs to be treated and has been treated in the past. However, it appears as though Tony may be off his medicine and forcing his wife to file for a restraining order because of his frightening, paranoid, and delusional behavior. And some of the quotes are just unbelievable. I'll read through them here and then I'll get y'all's reaction. Basically, in the application, she said that she has videos and photographs of Tony Ferguson's frightening, irrational, and paranoid behavior, which depicts him crying, laughing, muttering, yelling for no apparent rational reason. There's also a part where she was saying that he had not slept for 3 days and was tearing apart the home, that he had broken apart the fireplace, and because he believed that someone had placed a computer chip in his leg. We know that he had undergone surgery for tripping over a cable. Basically, according to the restraining order, Ferguson tore up the fireplace because he thought there was a hidden doorway under it. Guys, we can talk about fighters who seem to be a little bit off their rocker, like Diego Sanchez or a Tony Ferguson, but this is serious and this is scary, and I don't want him to fight while he still has these problems. That this needs to be considered a priority over any type of discussion around fighting or challenging for the title. KC, we'll start with you. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, so I first say that it starts with these are still allegations. We, the public, don't have access to all of that and probably shouldn't. So until a judge makes a call on that, I don't know that I can speak too directly to what's happening in his home life.
Well, sure.
But let's assume that, as one should, let's assume that these things are factual and he is having a break. It is tough to say that in a sport that demands violence, that and we know the effects of trauma on regulating head trauma on regulating emotions, that this is surprising. And by that same token, if we talk about warriors going out on their shield, there's not a ton of help that can be done with CTE and some of these brain damage diseases, which honestly, based on the description that you had there, that is classic what happens to former boxers, what happens to NFL players as they reach the end. It's hard to manage their paranoia. It's hard to manage emotions and rage. You turn into a Warhammer type situation. So that's what you want to avoid. But at the same time, there's not a ton of help that can be levied at this point. The damage is already done, and science hasn't reached a place where they can reverse it. So stopping him from fighting, I don't know what that helps.
Well, John, I'll have you. What are your thoughts?
Well, from what I've read, this is the latest incident. They have incidents chronicling behavior like this from January. Okay, so this is not just the first time this has happened. Once again, like Casey said, these are allegations. Okay, we don't know what's truly going on in that home, but there's a lot of reports coming out of there. This is heartbreaking. Okay, we never want to see any athletes going through this. CTE is serious. Coming from a veteran's point of view, that even with PTSDs, CTEs, any type of traumatic injury that is causing abnormal behavior like this is devastating. And unfortunately, our current medical science is not up to snuff to treat this, like Casey said. So, I mean, my heart goes out to him, and I hope that, that he does get help. I hope does this stop him from fighting? I don't know, man. I mean, because if this is a result of the damage that he has taken, why would you go back? I mean, as I believe in the Warriors mentality of going out on your shield, at the same time, recognize that you've hit your limit, and anything beyond this limit is on you.
Can I say that while this behavior is erratic and it is suboptimal for people to be this way, it's not a far cry from stuff that we've seen from a lot of other fighters, and not a far cry from where we see our friend Conor McGregor right now.
Wow.
Like, all of these, he's destroying property, but he's not hurting people yet in this, right? And so this is a means of kind of in advance saying, look, this is escalating, and I don't want him to hurt me. I get that. But all of these same irrational behaviors we saw with we're seeing with Conor McGregor. I mean, Rush, George St. Pierre believes aliens talk to him. So at what point do we say a fighter can't fight because they're out of the octagon? Behavior is too irrational?
Well, I think that's a relevant question. A little more information. The hearing for this restraining order is scheduled for April 5th, as to decide whether or not this is going to be a permanent restraining order or whatever. But I think you bring up an interesting question about the behavior that Conor McGregor has. I think it comes down to, if people feel like they're in danger around you when there is not a catalyst, a natural, understandable, logical catalyst, then that's when perhaps we need to consider whether or not taking additional damage is a good idea. We're not getting, while we're getting, Conor McGregor behaving in a manic fashion with fans and things like that. What we're not hearing is that his wife is afraid to be with him. that she's afraid for her safety and the safety of their young children. This is what Tony Ferguson's wife was filing a restraining order for. Now, she issued a statement after the filing of the restraining order, and it really seems as though this is her attempt to influence Tony to get back on his meds or to go and see some type of help for that behavior, unless that she is trying to leave him or some other thing. But what is clear is that she has issued that because there is there appears allegedly, and I think that it's great that you guys are reminding me to also not speak as though this is all fact and certain, but there appears to be, based upon what we are seeing about what is written in the restraining order, consistent behavior that brings into question Tony's safety, his wife's safety, and their child's safety. And if that is the case, that is starkly different than Conor's behavior. And in that case, Tony, I would say that if it is all true and it is all valid, then Tony should not fight until there is something that can be done to resolve or otherwise mitigate the problem that he's experiencing.
Fair enough.
All right. Thug Rose, no hair, Namajunas, returns for UFC 237 on May 11 versus Jessica Andrade. I'm excited. People have been talking smack like this is going to be a terrible card. No, anytime Thug Rose gets in the ring, it's going to be exciting.
I think it's a good matchup. I mean, they've got a lot of commonalities in some of the trainers that they worked with in the past throughout Colorado. Some common opponents that they've had very recently. Oddly enough, some of their common opponents are saying Jessica Andrade takes the edge here. So,
wow.
It could get interesting.
So, in other words, we got a banger on our hands.
Yeah. And so this is what's interesting to me, is because now that the UFC 237 has a main event, I'm reading on Twitter and other places, and I'm a part of a couple of UFC groups. People are like, this card's going to suck. But I'm looking at other fights on the card. You got Jose Aldo. He's back because this card is taking place in Brazil. So you got Jose Aldo, who's fighting Alexander Volkanovski. You got Anderson Silva fighting Jared Cannonier. You got Antonio Rogério Nogueira, I think that is Little Nog, fighting Ryan Spann. And BJ Penn is fighting Clay Guida. Like we get a what is it? What's your league, John?
A Masters.
You get
league?
your Masters division. Yeah, you're getting BJ Penn.
Yeah, but how exciting is that? You do Jose's back, but
Jose's
he's
back.
not going to be the title contender anytime soon.
Jose wins this fight. Well, he can't really fight for the title because he's fought twice for the title against Max Holloway and lost both times. So, no, I don't think he can be that. But he can still be a heck of a gatekeeper. And Alexander Volkanovski, that dude is rising like a rocket. I mean, he is like on the Darren Till trajectory.
Ooh, don't put that. Careful. Don't you speak that evil on him.
Yeah, that's like SpaceX, man. Come on, dude. Don't do that.
And then you got Anderson Silva. That dude is always fun to watch, but he's only getting worse at this notion of Anderson, man. You got to figure out an offense. Like, we get you're a defensive master, but he's got no offense. So it's like it's kind of boring to watch his amazing displays of defense because it's become too commonplace. Like, Anderson, you can dodge, you can take a punch, great, but you've got no offense whatsoever. It's hard to watch those fights now.
And okay. I think sorry to cut you off there, Ryan, but I think what's happened is that everybody's figured out Anderson Silva's riddle, and that's why it's become boring. Okay, because once you figure out the riddle, everybody knows how to beat him now, and that's what we're seeing. That people are learning new ways to counter the counterpuncher, the ultimate counterpuncher.
First of all, I just want to say this could be Anderson Silva's last fight, and that's why this is special. Mm-hmm. This is in Anderson Silva's hometown.
Yes.
So this is a special card because of that. He's fighting Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier we didn't think he was going to do much in his last fight, and ended up winning his fight in dramatic fashion. I think this is a dangerous fight for Anderson Silva, and the fact is you can know how to beat Anderson Silva. I mean, you and I and KC know how to beat Anderson Silva, but
I actually don't.
Do it in the ring. Do it in front of Anderson Silva.
Once again, you're beaten before you got in the ring. Your will has been broken because you're fighting the Spider. Okay, and it doesn't matter. It's the Spider in his last fight, or the Spider in his heyday, or the Spider in his beginning fight. If you know what the Spider can do, of course, by the time you get to the ring, you're like, I can't fight this dude. He's about to come out to Michael Jackson's "Beat It," and I'm done. Okay,
I hope not.
He's coming out with the Michael Jackson "Beat It" jacket.
I think I have 2 notes on this. Like, what kept Anderson's fight against the younger version of Anderson in Stylebender interesting is that Stylebender did have that immense amount of respect. I think if Cannonier comes in here with less respect and is willing to go for broke, you get a much more exciting fight because it could go either way. I mean, the counterpunching of Silva can never be underestimated, but he clearly has Silva clearly has some holes. And then just this whole notion of fighting in your hometown, like the hometown in MMA is kind of an overblown thing because no one actually fights out of their hometown anymore. Like no one's from where they fight. Silva lives in L.A.
Well, I get you, but there is something to be said about he's from Curitiba, Brazil. That is his hometown. It's where he grew up. That's where he still has family there. There's a legacy that spans such a long and great career that if indeed this is his last fight, what a way to end it. What a way to come back home and go back to where you started and your roots and fight against a guy who is a beast. So I don't know. I get what you're saying is that Anderson, he's long since left Curitiba, but we all have our hometowns. We all have where our family's from. And to go back there and, at the end of your career and have that one pay-per-view that you have been lobbying for, honestly, for most of your career, you finally get it. I think that there's a lot of expectation, and that could add to the question of whether or not Anderson Silva is going to be able to perform at a high level. Let's go on though. UFC pay-per-view will exclusively be on ESPN Plus starting on UFC 236 on April 13th. Anyone who wants to purchase the pay-per-views, which features the biggest names, will have to have an ESPN Plus subscription. So that costs $4.99 a month. And if you do that, then you can get a pay-per-view for $59.99, which is a $5 discount off of the previously charged events. So ESPN Plus subscribers can get a $79.99 year subscription, which includes one pay-per-view event. So basically, it's $49.99 for a year of ESPN plus an extra $30 for a pay-per-view. So you save about $20. You save about what is that? $20.
This is hard.
I don't know how this is going to affect anything, but
I don't think that's a good plan. I think this is a gamble for ESPN and the UFC to think that they're going to force people to take ESPN Plus just to get a pay-per-view. That's that one thing that people love is the power of choice. And if you force people to go to do a certain thing, you're going to lose sales. So I hope they're prepared to lose a few, some sales on this, because I don't think people are going to go for it.
I don't know. Personally, for me, I think that buying a pay-per-view is forcing a choice anyway. And the fact is that what they've done is that if you were buying a pay-per-view anyway, I mean, the pay-per-view happens once a month. If you buy all the pay-per-views, you're getting a $5 discount, which is the cost of the ESPN subscription. So there's really no difference in buying each pay-per-view and buying a pay-per-view and having to have an ESPN Plus subscription, except for the fact that now you get to watch all of the ESPN Plus fight nights. So I think it's actually not not a bad deal.
And that's a logical way of seeing it, and that's a very good point. You made a great point in that. However, people will see that as you are corralling my choice. I have to take this channel before I just get a pay-per-view. Why can't I just pay for the pay-per-view and be done with it? I don't want an extra channel. That is what the argument is going to be. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer about it because, if you think about what you get with ESPN Plus, you're right. It's not a bad deal. It's actually pretty nice. Okay. But there will be those people that will complain. Because when hold on, just one more thing. The UFC Fight Pass, weren't we able to see pay-per-views through the Fight Pass?
You still have to pay full price for the pay-per-view, and Fight Pass is $9.99.
Yep.
Okay, I'm done.
It's been a much better deal overall.
Is that it? I don't know if you got any other thing to say.
I don't know. Math.
All right. And with that, let's go on to the fights that are happening this week with the fight card. This is the fight card. This is where we look at the fights that are coming up, and we have a Bellator fight this weekend. This is Bellator 218, Sanchez versus Karakanyan at the WinStar World Casino and Resort in Thackerville, Oklahoma, March 22nd, 2019. We've got 4 fights on the card. Anatoly Tokov is fighting Gerald Harris. This is a middleweight fight. We've got another middleweight fight, which is Michael Shipman versus Horacio Darpinian. We've got a heavyweight fight in Valentin Moldavsky versus Linton Vassell. And then the main event is a featherweight fight between Emmanuel Sanchez and Georgi Karakanyan. So I don't really know these fighters, so I'm not going to ask you guys to make a flash fight pick.
Good.
But I'm gonna say mad shout out for you with the pronunciation. Okay, you need like a DJ Clue bomb for that, man. Okay, for real. So
well, thank you. I mean, to say how I started the show, right? I couldn't even say like emerged. I just got through a bunch of difficult names. We also have on Saturday night UFC Fight Night Thompson versus Pettis coming to us on March 23rd, 2019 from Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, Tennessee. We've got Are you ready, John?
I'm ready.
We've got Macy Barber fighting JJ Aldrich.
Whoa. On the Alfred
Barber.
Hitchcock sign.
Come on, let's hear it.
What are you talking about?
Macy Barber's fighting. Aren't you a Macy
That's
Barber
nice.
fan?
Yes, I am. And let's keep this private.
Look, that 20-year-old is destined for greatness, and she told Dana White so. And she believes that she's going to be bigger than both Conor and Ronda. So I'm going to be Team Barber here. Like I see her in the gym. She works hard. She's got this.
All right.
I'm very much Team Barber. She will have a great career ahead of her, and she fights too. And I just hope we'll talk about the whole Ronda Rousey UFC thing another day. Let's just hope that she doesn't go that route. I hope she has a very long, fulfilling career. And we'll leave it at that.
The thing is that at least Macy Barber has an actual striking coach and not Coach Edmond, who should never have told Ronda Rousey to do anything other than arm bars. But anyway.
Where's that dude at anyway? Did he fall off? Did they end up killing him after all?
I don't know, but the thing is that he definitely Ronda Rousey was his claim to fame. I haven't seen a single fighter from him since. It's probably a reason for that.
Yeah.
All right. So the Violent Bob Ross, Luis Pena versus Steven Peterson. That's going to be a great fight. Jussier Formiga versus Davidson Figueroa. That is a great fight. John McDessie versus Jesus Pinedo. And then the future of the heavyweight division, Curtis Blades returns to fight Justin Big Baby Willis.
There's a lot of Colorado on that card.
I know.
Yeah. And then in the main event, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fights Anthony Pettis in the main event. Karate versus Taekwondo. Let's make some fight picks. Okay, so you guys both have Macy Barber. I'm indifferent there, so I'll take Macy Barber as well. You guys know the Violent Bob Ross?
Oh, yeah, I know him. Hey, happy trees and a happy beating for everybody.
All right.
Luis Pena.
Okay, I'm going to take Luis Pena, even though he let me down last time. Jussier Formiga versus Davidson Figueroa. This is actually a really good fight. I'm going to go with Jussier Formiga, even though I like Davidson.
I like Formiga.
All right. KC, you can jump in anytime.
No, I like those.
All right, John McDessie versus Jesus Pinedo. I don't really know Jesus, but I know John McDessie. That guy brings the fight every time. I'm going to go with him.
I'm indifferent on either one. I don't know either one, unfortunately.
All right. I got Curtis Blades versus Big Baby Justin Willis.
I'm going to go Curtis Blades as well, just because, I like his style. I like his aggression. Let's see what he does.
I like Curtis Blades' Instagram account.
Okay. Oh, by the way, if Justin Willis is not Big Baby, he's Big Pretty. I'm sorry. I had it incorrect. It's Big
Even
Pretty.
Worse.
He is big. That is accurate. And then in the main event, let's do the flash fight pick here. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Anthony Pettis. John, who you got?
I love Pettis, but the UFC seems to have a mad on about Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Wonderboy's going to take it.
KC.
It's showtime, baby.
All right. Anthony Pettis is, I think, going to be more game than what anyone's given him credit for. But Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, I respect the karate over the taekwondo. So I'm going Stephen Wonderboy Thompson by decision against Anthony Pettis. And Anthony's going to have to figure out what he's going to do after his second loss in a row. Anything else?
He's going to go down to Strawberry Park in Steamboat Springs and enjoy some good time outdoors.
Okay.
That's
That's where he goes after fights. It's nuts. That place is gorgeous. You should go there, by the way.
All right. Well, we will try to do that. Follow us on social media. On Instagram, I am at Combat Sports Talk.
I am at CST_KC.
That's the Twitter.
And
I'm talking Instagram.
I am not doing well. I am sorry. Just go on without me.
And I am at Keys to Victory, and that's Keys with an ES.
All right. And KC is at Push Pull Pray. All in one word. You can check out our website at combatsportstalk.com. You can also find us on any of your favorite podcasting platforms. We now have merchandise. Just go to our website and click the merchandise link. And we uploaded the live event from UFC 235 with featuring the double champ George G Money Stallworth. Hey guys, I want to thank you guys for making some time for me to do the show this week. So thanks so much. Let's get out of here. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. KC Onyebuchi produced our leader. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. KC Onyebuchi and John Hughes. I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you, hands up, chin up,